What the Tech is sponsored by Hover.com. Domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. Welcome, everybody, to What the Tech. I am Andrew Zarian. This is a show where I and my mysterious co-host, Paul Thurrott, he's very mysterious. Nobody knows where he is. From a undisclosed bunker.
I still haven't cleaned my desk. It's embarrassing.
This is a show where Paul and I discuss not the news of the week, but certain topics that we found interesting in technology.
The muse of the week.
The muse of the week. This is not a news show. I get that all the time. They're like, how come you only talk about 2 or 3 stories? And I go, because it's not a news show. I don't know, Paul. How you been?
Good. Well, I'm fine. I've been in like this almost sick state for like 2 weeks now. I'm getting a little tired of it.
Oh, you're still feeling sick.
I feel like I'm about to get sick. You know, I'm like stuffed up and tired.
I'm actually feeling awful. I got into a car accident. I was telling the viewers before the show started. I got into my first car accident today, and my perfect record is now ruined.
Accident?
My first car. I've never been in one.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was in so many car accidents when I was younger.
No, I've had a perfect record, and I was not a great driver, but I always was lucky, and I had a perfect record. I'm a believer of sticking to what you know and sticking to like your certain cycles, like your daily thing. Like I don't break my cycle of what I do every day. My day is planned out for the rest of my life. My wife decided that she needed me to drive her to work today. So I got up and I drove her to work and I got into a car accident. And you know what? I blamed her. Right after the car accident, I said, I knew this would happen.
And I'm never doing this again.
And then she started yelling at me and she hasn't spoken to me for the rest of the day. Yeah.
Wow. It's like getting hit twice.
Yeah, almost at this point. Almost. But, my back is a little sore, but everything is fine. My car is okay. The other guy's car is not so okay, unfortunately. And we're going to see what happens with this. Not a great start to my Tuesday, Paul. I'll tell you that.
So if next week comes and I'm doing the show with this other guy, is that...
You know what happened.
We'll know what happened.
Yeah, you know what happened.
Okay.
I have insurance, so that's a good thing. They're congratulating me in the chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, very interesting week for technology, and we're going to go with the big story. We have a couple stories here, but I do want to go with the big one, and that's the Windows 8 beta leaks that have been coming out all week, and you did feature it on WinSuperSite. It's on your website at winsupersite.com if people want to check it out and see the pictures. We have a couple of pictures, but you wrote an interesting article, and very nice article about what's happening right now.
Yep. Yeah, I mean... depending on the scope of this, I don't write an article every time someone puts a screenshot of Windows 8 up on the web, but this one, it's clearly the same build. It's clearly a consumer preview era build, meaning it's going to be either the exact build we're supposed to get publicly this month or something very close to it. And there were a ton of shots. There's a lot of information in there. And I use Windows 8 every single day, so I can look at those shots and right off the top of my head say, hey, that's interesting. That looks different. That's a little different. And I thought it would be interesting in this case to write something about it. I don't have the build, myself, so I can just base it on what I know and what I see there in the shots.
So let me ask you. I'm gonna pull some shots up.
Yep.
Some of them, like, what is this?
That's the charms.
Okay. That's the charms that they're referring to that have replaced the start orb.
Not exactly. I mean, the charms are there in the developer preview, which still has that start orb or the start button. The charms are a system-wide Edge UI that is available both in that new Metro interface, the start screen, as well as the desktop. They're changing the behavior in the consumer preview and presumably in the final version so that regardless of which environment you're in, it will act consistently. So today, when there is this start button down in the corner on the desktop, there's a different charms menu that comes up in the developer preview. And what you were just showing there is the new version which if I were in the Metro environment would be what I would see in the developer preview, if that makes any sense. So in other words, there's a start screen in the Windows 8 and there's also a desktop. So starting in the consumer preview, that Charms Edge UI that comes up, that thing that you just showed, will look and work the same regardless of which environment you're in. So that's one of the changes we're seeing.
So that's one of the. By the way, this was not in the previous release, the preview.
It was. It just looked different.
It just looked different. Okay.
Well, on the desktop, it looked different. If you were in the Metro environment, the start screen, it actually looked a lot like that. They changed some of the icons a little bit, I guess.
One thing that I'm glad about is that the 800 key activation is still there.
Yeah, that's going nowhere.
That we're never changing that. So what is this that we're looking at right now?
So that's the Windows desktop, but it's doing screen sharing, or Microsoft is supporting the notion of side-by-side apps in Windows 8. So what you see on the left is the desktop, and on the right side is the Metro style control panel, the settings interface.
Okay.
Those two things could be flipped so that the Metro interface was taking up most of the screen. They could also be flipped in the sense that the thing that's small could be over on the left side instead of on the right.
Okay, so you could adjust it.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going down the list here. What we're looking at is the screenshots for Windows 8.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one thing that I'm actually happy about, the fact that you could kind of, it's not the same green background that people feared would be the final and only background.
No, I can tell you, I talked to those guys at Build last September, and they actually have the default color scheme of the start screen is color-coded to the milestone. So back in, I think it was May of last year, they showed off a purple screen. When they went with the developer preview, it was green. I was told that meant green for Go. I was told that they had already mapped out their schemes. These things are going to get more. They're not actually solid colors, or they don't have to be. Mm-hmm. They can be fairly complex designs and so forth. And I was told they had actually at that time already picked out the one they were going to use for the final release, which was supposed to be beautiful.
Well, you know what's interesting is that when the preview came out, people were actually thinking, "This is it. This is all you're getting."
No. So the customization functionality that's built into the start screen was just hidden in the developer preview. You could actually, I think, expose it with some kind of a registry hack or some kind of an add-in application, but they give you the opportunity to change that, and they will be doing that in the consumer preview. And that's why you'll see a couple of shots where the start screen is different colors and also different patterns and designs. And those are some of the ones that are built in, I believe, that you'll be able to switch between.
Yeah. By the way, this is visually working for us, but if you're listening to the audio feed, I apologize. I would recommend you watching the show because we're putting up images of Windows 8 as we speak. So here's another preview of what it could potentially look like with the different colors and different themes.
This one's a little curious, though, because obviously it's got kind of a gray background color. It has an orange accent color, which is what with the app bar there at the bottom, and then also the tile that's selected. But there's a Skype logo up in the corner there.
Let me see. Where do you see it?
In the top right corner. Oh, no, that's just us. I'm sorry. Okay, I was just going to say.
No, that's just us.
That's Skype. I was like, I didn't notice that in the screenshot. How did I not notice that? That's in Skype.
Skype integration?
I thought you just showed me something I didn't know. I was just looking that one up. Okay, so there's no Skype.
So what is this that I'm looking at right now?
So same thing. Well, actually, no. This one is there's two things going on. So there's the desktop, which is obviously most of it, and then you see this kind of slide-in settings panel. So if you were to, what has happened here is that the person has brought up the charm bar, and then click settings, which is one of those 4 buttons. It's the one that looks like a gear. And because we're on the desktop, what you're seeing is the desktop settings, which is the top bit. And then it's changed a little bit. So if you were to look at this in the developer preview, the only thing at the top of the screen was a desktop link. And if you there's nothing there. But now you can see in that the screenshot you were showing, there were additional stuff. So they're sort of padding out the UI. And then at the bottom of that settings pane all the time are going to be those 6 icons for the network, the volume, the brightness of the screen, and you can see how the brightness is lit up. It's white. That means that this thing is a laptop computer, probably. It is not available on the PC that I have in front of me, so I have a desktop computer, but I guess that would depend on your hardware. There's a notifications icon, and power, and then the language. And actually, I can't. Yeah, make sure.
And then
yeah.
I have my final one, and this is the desktop environment.
Yeah, that's just the desktop. And if you look at that stuff, I mean, those UIs, aside, well, there are two new things you can see here.
Okay, what is that start thing I'm looking at in the corner?
Yeah, that's one of the two new things. So up in the top left corner, there's a computer icon that's new.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
That's a kind of a Metro style icon. Those are new in this build. In the lower left corner, you see that little weird pop-up. And what that is there's no start button down there anymore, right?
Gone.
So when you in the developer preview, when you mouse over the very left lower corner with the mouse, that 1 pixel, you get a pop-up that has a menu for the charms. But you don't get that anymore in the consumer preview. They're doing it more consistently with the start screen. But because there's no start button or orb, there's no way to get back to the start screen without using the keyboard, right? So what that thing is I believe that guy has moused over to the very lower left-hand corner of the screen. That thing pops up, and I believe if you were to click right there, the start screen would come back. And I think that's a way to get the start screen back using a mouse. I think that's what that is.
So, I mean, this was the big news this week that the traditional start button is no longer there. Some people are upset. What do you think of it? What's your opinion on this? That it's gone. Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's going to be an inconvenience for people?
So a couple things on that. A lot of people are obviously freaking out. How could you not have a start button?
Yeah.
But I think the one thing people don't understand is that to get the Windows logo on a piece of hardware now, you have to ship hardware that has a hardware Windows button on it. And they're designing this thing so that it works kind of like the home button would on an iPad or whatever. And if you look at the developer slate that they gave out at Build, it has a Windows button on it. And that button replaces the software button. So you got to remember, the absence of the actual button doesn't preclude the functionality that's attached to it. So in that, even though there's no button, you could still hit the start button in your keyboard. It would achieve the same thing. Or if you don't have a keyboard with a start button, you can do Control Escape.
Okay.
Also does the same thing. Or you can do what I believe is happening in that screenshot where you mouse over the corner. So even on a legacy device, if you will, like a PC that's sold today, still possible to access that start button functionality without the button taking up screen real estate. And if you have a modern device, one of the tablets or whatever that will be sold in the coming year, that thing will have to have a Windows button on it. Actually, I think they call it a Windows key button, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's what they're calling it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it looks like the home button on an iPad, but it has a Windows logo on it.
So here are the couple questions that are coming in from the chat room and from people personally messaging me at this moment. Is this the final look of Windows 8? I mean, is this all that we're going to see? Because there are some big changes between the developer preview and this. From what I've read, this is a very stable version of the operating system. It's very stable, and people saying that it's like what the Windows 7 beta was, and if not more stable.
Right. So
is this it as far as aesthetically?
No. I would say that the level of difference that we're going to see between this and the developer preview will probably be consistent with the amount of difference we're going to see between this and the final version, because there are two more milestones to come, major milestones. There's what used to be called the release candidate, and they might call that something different, an enterprise preview or a business preview or whatever, and then of course the final version. So people will get this build and they'll install it, and Microsoft's calling it a consumer preview, so they expect normal people to try this, and they'll get feedback from that, and they'll make changes.
Is this the public? This is the public beta that we're looking at.
Yeah, this is the one for end
everybody.
Users. Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it looks really good. I'm really, and there were some more images like the store, the app store.
Yep.
Which we got a glimpse of what it's going to look like. I don't know. It's kind of growing on me. The more they're developing it, and the more I'm looking at it. But
yeah, I honestly, to me, the differences I see aren't that great personally. But I've been sort of immersed in Windows 8 for a few months now. So I think the bigger deal is going to be that availability of applications, Metro style apps, really, and how or if that transforms the Windows 8 user experience. So one of the things I've been talking about or writing about a lot lately is how if you use the developer preview, because you're stuck with the old school Win32 apps, desktop style apps, it's not much different than using Windows 7. There are some differences. Obviously, the Explorer is a little different. The Task Manager is a little different. The Start menu is gone.
Yeah.
But by and large, using Windows 8 today is very similar to using Windows 7. Now, if we have a lot of apps that make a lot of sense for us personally, use it in Metro style apps, that could change the experience pretty dramatically.
Well, if there are a lot of Metro style apps, and for many people, it would eliminate the need to go into the desktop mode, right?
Yeah.
And that's the end goal. I mean, I'm assuming that's Microsoft's end goal, where they slowly cut out the desktop goal. This is Microsoft's way of supporting legacy.
I wonder, so I think you're right. I mean, I should say, for starters, I wonder
Thank
how
you, Paul.
far.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to sound like I was contradicting you. What I mean is, I agree with that, of course. The question is whether Microsoft really does intend to ever get rid of the desktop. I sort of think they will, but on the other hand, I also think we're looking for like this hint or clue or confirmation that Windows 8 is going to be this dual environment where there's a start screen that has those Metro style apps, and then there's this desktop thing. And you can use either one, but the truth is the way it's probably going to work out is that most people on a new style PC, like a Windows device, as Microsoft would call it, a tablet, or an Ultrabook with a detachable screen or something like that, will probably use Windows 8 primarily over time as that full screen Metro environment.
Sure. Well, you know what it is? Also, a lot of people are complaining, and we are a
complaining society.
Complaining society, yes, but we do we've been complaining that Microsoft is stuck to this old way for years, and people comparatively go, well, look at Apple. Apple dropped what they were doing, and they went to this new interface and this new look. Apple did it, but Apple had a handful of people using the hardware. They didn't have 90% of the consumer market.
When Apple dropped their classic Mac OS environment and went to Mac OS 10, I don't want to understate what an achievement that was. Actually, it was a very impressive thing that they did, and they did it very quickly. But their audience was maybe 20 million people.
20 million, yeah.
Microsoft just said that there were 1.3 billion active Windows users in the world. This is a much, much bigger audience. Even if you were to say, if Apple were to announce tomorrow morning that we are now over time going to phase out the Mac and focus only on iOS, aside from the emotional reaction to that, the truth is that change would impact maybe 50 million people at most, maybe. And that audience, that's nothing compared to 1.3 billion Windows users. So you can't just, the desktop is gone, we're doing this new thing. The problem with the new thing, as is always the problem with the new thing, is that the first version of the new thing doesn't have everything. It doesn't do everything that the old thing did. So you can't get rid of the old thing, at least not right away. And
no, you can't.
That's what you were alluding to. And that's when I said I agree with you. But the question I have is whether they do get rid of it over time. Because
I hope so. And I'm going to get a lot of slack over this. But send me your emails also. I do get a lot of emails from people telling us, I agree with you, I don't agree with you. You can send it at guysfromqueens@gmail.com. I hope that you see these plugs. I'm constantly
send
plugging.
It to jerk at guys.
Yeah, jerk at guysfromqueens.com. I hope they do change it in the long run, because look at it like this. The next version of Windows will probably be what we see Metro now. It'll be like the full experience, the next generation of Windows, whatever it is, 9 or whatever they're going to call it, or even if they do call it Windows. Yeah. That's probably going to come out somewhere between 2017 and 2018, about 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 2016. Sorry, 2016 will come out. About 4 years.
Okay.
I hope by 2016 we are still not using the same environment for computing that we did in 96, 97. If you look at it, look at it like that. Let's imagine how Windows has evolved, and the desktop UI has not seriously evolved.
Let me offer you an alternative future. Where
I'm king? Yes, I dream of that every day. And we have no cars, by the way. We just ride on ostriches.
No, I think that over time, here's what I expect to happen, and here's what I'd like to happen. These are actually two different things. I expect that Microsoft will release new versions of Windows every 3 years going forward, and that Windows 9, let's call it, will include further capabilities for Metro and close the gap, and that maybe by that time, the Windows desktop will be an optional part of the install for tablet computers, but will be on by default for desktops and laptops, because those guys will have need of that for some reason.
Yeah.
An alternate future, though, I think a slightly better approach would be for Microsoft to do to Windows what they're doing to IE and to what Chrome is, Google is doing to Chrome, which is to forget about the version number stuff, forget about the monolithic updates every 3 days, and just use this as the basis for Windows going forward and add capabilities going forward. So
small updates, incremental updates here and there.
Yeah, in other words, rather than wait for the next monolithic release of Windows to update this thing, release updates to Metro over time and release the package that gets given out to PC makers over time, which, by the way, is what they did after Windows 95 shipped between the release of Windows 95 and Windows 8. They called them, I just forgot what they called them, the OSR releases, operating service releases or something like that. I think that this is too big of a change to let it sit, that it's going to be too incomplete, that the version of Metro and the start screen and the capabilities that ship with Windows 8 can't sit there unchanged for 3 years. And so I hope that what they do is they forget about this stuff and they just ship new capabilities. And then application writers can do what web developers are going to be doing, or are doing hopefully, which is not looking for browser versions, but looking for the existence of capabilities.
One of the complaints from people that I've been receiving is that people really want their desktop environment totally separate from their mobile environment, which I could understand it now. And I was thinking about that, and I was saying, but look at it as far as the next couple of years. Phones have become our computers. Yeah. There's really not too much of a difference between what we have in front of us in the office and what we have in front of us, as far as a tablet or a phone goes.
There are phones that clip on the back of a screen and become a laptop. I mean,
yeah.
I think
so. The unified OS, the unified experience amongst all these products, it's becoming it makes sense. But we're still the first generation to experience this, so to us, it's going to be a little bizarre.
But I'm also part of that minor subset of humanity that needs the desktop environment to do productivity work, and my expectation is that.
What do you mean, Paul? We know that the internet and computers are only used for kitten pictures.
Right.
That's all we do.
Well, they probably are statistically, but for me personally, and for some small minority of other people, we do need that functionality. And actually, the other thing I'd say is, if this were Apple we were talking about, what you're suggesting, just use Metro and forget the desktop, would happen because the majority of their customers by far are consumers, not business users. But Microsoft's customer base is split probably 50-50 or close to it. So I would expect there's going to be some differentiation over time between, it will either be the device type where it senses or sees that it's being installed on a desktop or a laptop with a physical keyboard, and it will give you the desktop or at least the option. And that businesses will have that from a policy basis where they can define during an install that we're getting this because those are the kinds of computers that we have. Whereas if you buy a tablet, maybe it's turned up, maybe not in Windows 8, but Windows 9, the desktop is just, it's there, it's available, but it's not installed by default or enabled by default. I could see that.
Yeah, it's going to get very interesting because what happens to the power user? That's the whole discussion here.
Well, and this is right. So I try to speak to the user, not to the power user, but this is like a weird one for me because now suddenly
you're affected by this. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think of myself as a power user, other than that I know a little bit more about computers than say the typical consumer, of course. But I try to keep my head in the real world, but this is one of those instances where I find myself in this kind of weird position because I need the the keyboard. That's what I do. I'm the truck, I guess.
I'm running a web TV network off of a Windows machine, and I rely on just a bare OS. I'm thinking for myself, to be a little selfish, I'm thinking, well, what the hell's going to happen with this Metro UI? How much CPU resources is the Metro UI going to take up? Because it's always running. It's not like you could turn it off. What does that mean?
But that'll see. This is a conceptual thing. I just wrote an article about the Windows runtime. People look at Windows 8 and they're like, what the heck? It's Windows, plus it's got this other thing running on top of it.
But it's not.
And as far as Microsoft is concerned, that's not the case at all. Windows is that Windows start screen. It also has the desktop.
Yeah, but I'll give you an example. I turn off all the pretty stuff in Windows.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have the standard Windows XP look because that actually cuts back on CPU resources.
Yep.
You're not really going to be able to do that.
Well, no, but actually
And I know, listen, 99% of the people out there will never need to do that.
No, but it's not important in Windows 8. The start screen itself takes up less GPU power, CPU power, whatever resources than does the Windows 7 desktop. They've also done something very interesting in Windows 8 where the Windows 8 desktop takes up less resources than did the Windows 7 desktop. It's kind of a subtle thing, but if you look at the translucency effect on just a window and the desktop on Windows 8, it's not using the same effect. It's far more, or I should say less resource intensive, and thus it's better for everything. It's better for battery life, it's better for power consumption, it's better for just sucking up resources that the computer has.
Now we're talking about the as far as what it's going to be like for the desktop, but are there any significant changes to this build that will affect people on tablets?
See, that we don't know. So
we don't know. I mean, this release was really targeted towards winning over the desktop user in a way. They did a lot of tweaks and changes to that, but we don't know how this is. Like,
I'll speculate and say that what I expect to see happen is that Microsoft will provide sort of the basics in the package, and then in the Windows Store, I hope and expect to see Microsoft apps that are free for things like mail and music and videos and all that stuff, and you'll get this kind of an idea of how this stuff will be in Windows 8. Plus, you'll be able to play with the store, and we'll have these experiences that make sense, for full screen and tablet use and all that stuff. So,
do you think people are going to be sitting in the Metro environment or in the desktop environment on the laptop and in on a regular desktop? I'm curious on what the ratio is going to be of people just utilizing Metro over traditional classic mode.
I think even in the beta, it's probably going to be a lot of desktop stuff because we're still going to be in this world where that's what people have and they're comfortable with. But this is their opportunity to spend more time in Metro and get the applications that make sense for that environment and so forth. And hopefully, if you have a tablet, and no one does, but if you do, it'll probably be a pretty good experience.
It's still the same argument, though, right? I mean, what happens if people hate it? What do? They can't be like, okay, we're done. We're going back to class, Windows.
This is the kind of argument that you do hear online because the types of people who write articles about technology are those type of people. But, in the real world, I think what you're going to see is,
wow, look how nice this is.
What's that?
They're going to say, wow, look how nice this is.
Yeah. When I saw those tablets all lined up at Build, the immediate reaction I have was, it's going to look like that in a store. People are going to see those things all lined up, those beautiful, colorful screens. I realize that Apple's going to update the iPad. I mean, I'm not ignorant. And I realize that, the Android folks are going to update Android devices and everything. But you put that start screen next to an iPad with that awful-looking home screen that they have, and there's no comparison. The Windows 8 one looks way better.
No, it does, yeah.
And I think that's going to help, and it's what's going to help the phone and everything else Microsoft is doing going forward because people are really going to like this UI. They're going to fall in love with it, and they're going to be able to have it on their TVs. They're going to be able to have it on their phones. They're going to be able to have it on their computers and their tablets, whatever they want. And
so now we know what the tablet's going to be like. We know what Windows 8 desktop is going to be like. How about Windows 8 phone? Windows Phone 8.
Well,
you know what? I'm just going to call it Windows Mobile 8. I'm sticking to Windows Mobile. I'm not going to let it go.
You know what the problem with the Windows Mobile name is? That it's
the product.
Tainted.
Yeah, it's tainted. Yeah.
The product was terrible. Windows Mobile would be a very good name for a tablet product right now, but they probably won't use it because it just has that stink of the past, on it, and that's too bad. There was a great Windows 8 leak last week, and there's a lot of information now that is just out there publicly, and I don't know how to. All I can say is it's true and it's real and it's a big deal. And one of the things that Raphael and I were talking about with regards to the book, and I guess I can talk about publicly, is that Windows Phone 8 is going to share a lot of the same technologies, the core technologies, as well as the user experiences with Windows 8, and they'll be marketed together as companion products. And Windows Phone 8, for all intents and purposes, is the version of Windows 8 that will be on devices that have screens smaller than 7 inches. I think is the way to look at
it. And someone brought up a very interesting question. Is it upgradable?
You mean like today's phones?
Yeah, like a 7.5 phone. Will it be upgradable to 8?
So Microsoft has never come out and said anything publicly about Windows Phone 8, period. So obviously, for that information to be known, I think they would have to talk about it. So they haven't said. I'll tell you what my gut feeling is, is that there's no reason it can't work technically, except for one thing. Windows Phone 8 was going to support dual-core processors. It's going to support better hardware chipsets. It's going to support multiple screen resolutions. It's going to support different form factors, which we haven't talked about too much yet. It's going to support basically a lot of capabilities and functionality that are Windows 8 class type things, and that would require much higher levels of hardware resources than are available today in Windows Phone. So I think even if a hardware maker and or a wireless carrier were to allow that upgrade to actually push it out to users, that it would be a substandard experience based on what you get on a new phone. And that because of that, or just simply because they're scumbags, wireless carriers, that they won't do it. So my expectation is that Windows Phone 8 is going to be a line in the sand for the upgrade thing. It's a new product. It's a different product, essentially, even though it will have backwards apps compatibility with the current gen.
With the current one.
Yeah. I mean, and again, this is the type of question that's only a question for people who are highly technical. You've got people out there who are like, well, if Windows Phone 7.5 is not upgradable, then I don't want this phone. I'm going to wait until Windows Phone 8 comes out. To the vast majority of people, they're buying this device that they plan to use for 2 years, and the notion of upgrading it is like not really what they're buying it for. I mean, they might update security or bug fixes and things like that, but I don't think that that's really part of the reason they go into this. They want to buy it because it's a beautiful phone and because the thing it's running is beautiful. It's like the toaster argument. If your toaster toasts and it works, it's not obsolete because there's a new toaster from the same company. You don't expect the toaster to be upgraded to the new toasting capability. Only people who are thoroughly invested and involved in this industry have that expectation.
Yeah, because the core files are going to be different than 7.5, right?
So it's kind of hard to say how it's going to sit on the phone.
I mean, that would look at it, that people perceive that it's not really it's a huge jump. It's not just a small upgrade. Like with iOS, iOS 4 and iOS 5. I mean, it's still the same core.
Here's how I would say it to people. Architecturally speaking, or technically speaking, Windows XP had nothing in common with Windows 98. But a lot of people went from Windows 98 to Windows XP. The thing that came along with them were all of their applications, which by and large just ran, and all of their data, which all just worked fine. That will also be true when you move from Windows Phone 7X to Windows Phone 8. In the case of Windows 98, it's possible that you could have bought a computer in 1998 or 9 that had Windows 8 on it, and that when Windows XP came out in 2001, that you bought the software in a retail store and you upgraded that computer and it worked. It's possible. It probably wasn't a great experience because, years had gone by and new kinds of hardware had come out and so forth and all that. Phones are different than PCs, so you don't have the opportunity to buy the software in a store. That would have to be offered through your wireless carrier or through Microsoft, and I think just in that case, because they're in charge of the user experience, and you can look at it like they're benevolent, like they don't want to do this because they want me to buy a new phone, which is certainly a valid argument. But the truth is, I think there's also an argument to be made that the experience would be lousy because a lot of the capabilities that are in Windows Phone 8 are going to require these additional hardware resources that simply don't exist. And not to beat this argument to death, but I'd also point out that this month, Microsoft is going to announce an interim Windows Phone version, codenamed Tango. It's probably going to be like version 7.5.1. It's a very minor thing, but I expect those phones, which are lower resource phones, to be in the marketplace simultaneously with Windows Phone 8 phones.
Okay.
Here in the United States, we'll get 8, but if you live in an emerging market, if I don't want to single out an emerging market, but someplace, let's say in
But
Africa.
you don't think it's going to be like what Android is like at this moment, where you have 2.2 on the market and 2.3 on the market? It's not going to be a
No, actually, I do
like
think I think it will be like that.
You
except,
think it will be.
except the one difference is this: with some exceptions. I mean, some apps are just going to require a lot more memory or whatever. Apps, by and large, should work across the versions. Yes, over time, there are going to be apps that require Windows Phone 8 and whatever capabilities are there, and maybe those don't run on the other phones. That's definitely going to happen. So we can call that fragmentation, whatever. But
Okay.
I just think that when you can't, it's quality and quantity. You have to go over both. It's not enough just to have the best system. Everyone has to be able to buy what you're selling. And so I think Microsoft is yes, and so, fragmentation is the word we use, but fragmenting the market to have two different versions that will be in the market at the same time
Will happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah.
I do want to continue this, Paul, but I do want to talk about our sponsor, Hover.com, domain names made simple. I'm a big domain buyer. I say it every week on the show. I have probably around 200 domain names. And Paul says I may have a problem with this, with buying domains. But I do buy it at Hover because they make it extremely easy to buy the domain name, first of all. One aspect of that is that they allow you to use PayPal, which I'm a big PayPal user, and I just have everything there. I don't have to really put in the credit card, log in with PayPal, and I buy it. But the main reason why I'm with Hover is that you don't have to deal with the upsell like those other guys. You're not going to get a email blast every day telling you to update your domain or buy a new thing or get email support. You're not going to get that from Hover. They're extremely clean on their UI. If you go to gfq.hover.com, you could see. Another thing is they're not going to kill elephants like those other guys that go in Africa and they hunt elephants. You're not going to get that with Hover. If you go to gfq.hover.com, you get 10% off your entire purchase, or you could use promo code GFQ upon checkout. I just bought, what did I just buy? I just bought a domain today. And, Paul, I'm going to tell you, it took me like 5 seconds because my credit card is already on file. I put the domain name in, told me it's available, and I clicked buy, and that was it. It was in there. Private registration is included, so it's not an extra fee. Some of those other guys, they charge you $12 for the domain plus another $8 for private registration, and then they charge you another $10 for certified domain. You don't have that with Hover. Everything is included in the price. It actually comes out a lot cheaper than the other ones, and you can get a discount if you use GFQ as your promo code. Hover.com, domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com. You get 10% off your entire purchase. Now back to you, Paul. I like to do it fast. I like to just talk.
Seeing if I'm paying attention, I'm like, sticking my finger up my nose.
No, I actually do like the guys a lot, and they have a great product, so we support them here at GFQ. So we did get the Windows stuff out of the way. Yep. A lot of Windows news. I'm hoping to get my hands on that beta because I'm really curious to see how it's different. For someone like me, am I going to be able to go in there and be like, oh, wow, that's cool? Or am I going to say, wow, that's really different?
The beta is huge for me because, like I said, I've been using Windows 8, unlike, I think, 99.9% of the world or whatever. Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what the differences are, and that's something for me to investigate and write about, and I'm excited about that. But the other thing, of course, is I'm writing a book about Windows 8, and this is when it really starts. I've done writing on the book. I've written a lot of background material and stuff.
But a lot of the stuff is missing. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, and this is really the beginning of the heavy part of the writing. So, from whenever this is released through the end of March into April, probably, it's going to be, it's going to be like most of my life. So it's going to be a busy time.
I did want to move on to another story. There were two stories here that I did want to talk about. One is that Verizon is teaming up with Redbox. We knew that Verizon was looking for a video company to link up with as far as streaming movies, and they picked Redbox.
I thought that was a curious choice. What do you think about that?
What's interesting, I don't know if Coinstar and Verizon have some sort of connection because they are owned by Coinstar. So I was wondering if that might be the reason why. But who else is there really? There's Blockbuster.
Well, how about Amazon? I mean, the thing I don't get about this is, and I know you've looked at this stuff, Netflix is great. Right?
By the way, Redbox does not do streaming right now.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, they don't even have a streaming service. So all you have to do is spend some time with Amazon service, which is really lousy. to understand how hard it is to get into this market and do it right. So if you are the size of Amazon and you have that amount of resource and you can't do it right, how is Verizon plus Redbox going to do a good job of this? I almost wrote about this morning, and I decided to put it aside. So I was interested to see you had added it to the notes because I wasn't sure what to make of that.
Well, it depends how they're going to integrate this. It really depends on how they're going to integrate this. Now, does this mean that Verizon, every Fios technically has Redbox built in? You know, that's interesting. Maybe this is their video on demand service. They're going to use the infrastructure for video on demand.
What if it was as dumb as there are Redbox kiosks everywhere in this country, and there will be an ad on the envelope that you get the disc in that will give you information about getting into this Fios streaming service or something? I mean, what if that's all it was? You know, we'll use the popularity of the DVD service to sell this to people.
Well, I think what they're going to do is they're going to use Redbox to sell more Fios.
Okay. But that's what I mean.
That's what I see it. I see it as,
right.
I don't see it as like, wow, the separate entity that's going to compete with
I don't
Netflix.
I don't mean this as like a stab at middle America or anything, but I mean, the audience for Redbox is decidedly lower end, if you will, than compared to the audience for the internet elite who are getting fiber optic, service to their home. You know, I mean, we're talking about two very different audiences. I mean, I don't know how it's sort of like Tractable and Opera. You know, like I don't understand.
Yeah, you know what's interesting though? With other companies, you could kind of guess where they're gonna go with it. Like if Amazon were to buy Redbox,
yeah,
right?
You're like, okay,
you would
I get
say,
that.
I get it. They're getting into the DVD business. They're gonna do the streaming together. They're gonna, I guess they have deals. Like Coinstar has deals with certain companies. So they're probably doing it for that. What is Verizon gonna do with this? And how are they gonna implement the video streaming service? Now, are they going to implement it online for everybody? Are they going to do it only for Verizon? What are they going to do?
I have no idea. You know, I'd never even seen a Redbox.
Oh, I've seen one. You know where? All the Blockbusters that shut down now, there's a Redbox on their by their door now.
No, you don't understand. I don't leave the house. So
okay.
I don't mean this like
I don't either. See what happened?
Sure
when I leave the house, I get into a car accident.
No, we were on vacation last summer. We went to a supermarket, and there was a Redbox in the supermarket. And I sort of gravitated to it like a moth, goes to a bright light, And I said, we have to rent a movie, And of course, my kids were totally into that. My wife's like, why would you, And I'm like, I just want to use this thing. I just want to see what this is like. And I have to say, it works well, which makes sense. That's why it's popular. That that it actually works. But I don't. I just don't. It seems like it's like a cash grab, like a temporary business, that this is not something that's going to be around, permanently. It's just
I mean, it's not bad. It's $1 to rent
it's
Blu-ray. I mean, I put in Paranormal Activity 3, right? I just picked a Blu-ray from there.
Yep.
It's $1.63 to rent it for the day.
Sure.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad. And actually, the real benefit of this stuff is that it's where you're going to be going anyway, right? So it's Friday night and let's go out, we'll grab dinner, we're going to grab, some snack food and the movie. It's all in the same place, It makes plenty of sense. But it's not the future. That's the thing. It's just, there's a reason all of these video stores are going out of business, and it's not because of Redbox.
No, it's not. Now, the question is, okay, so now Verizon wants to team up with them for video streaming. I have a feeling that Verizon is going to kill their video on demand, and they're just going to do video streaming.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, actually, the way Fios does it, video on demand is streaming.
Yeah.
They do it over IP.
But it's really crappy.
It's okay. It's okay.
I cringe every time I have to look at the video on demand service on Fios. I really, really cringe because I think it's done so poorly, the searching and the categorizing. So what if they teamed up with Redbox? You click on Redbox and everything is in the Redbox menu and it's a nicer UI.
Yep.
They could possibly do that.
Oh,
but the other thing, Paul, Verizon has been very not aggressive, but they've been very open-minded to the aspect of streaming media online. You know, with the Xbox deal, I mean that's a pretty interesting deal, and obviously it's a test that they're doing to see if it works. But
I have to say, of the TV offerings on Xbox currently, it is by far the best one, and you know, as we've experienced in my own house, it's very much appreciated. It's given us an option to put TV into another part of the house for free, essentially.
For free,
right?
yeah.
My son already has an Xbox 360 with an Xbox Live account, and you know, it doesn't have all the channels, obviously, but it's got a bunch of them. There's stuff on there he can watch. They have captioning, which he needs, and the quality's pretty good. So yeah, it's great.
I don't know. I can see them doing that and then having their movies, you know, their movies be part of Redbox. It would be whatever they're going to call it. Are they going to call it Redbox? We don't even know.
Redbox would be a fine brand. I mean, I like the idea of them giving the UI to someone else. That's for sure. I mean, Fios doesn't know what they're doing when it comes to the user interface of this stuff. It's awful.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's bizarre. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you read the headline and you keep going, and then you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, what are they going to do with this?
There's something else that we don't know.
Yeah, I'm really good at reading people, companies too. I just can't read them. I have no idea what's going on with their.
Yeah, this one doesn't make sense.
This kind of goes into my next topic, and that would be live TV programming online. The Super Bowl was very successful. Did you watch it online at all?
No, I was curious what you meant by that. So the Super Bowl was successful online.
So the Super Bowl aired for free online.
I did
for
not
everybody.
Know this. Really?
The quality was pretty good.
Now, where did this happen?
NFL.com.
And is this so? They must have it available on a.
They streamed the entire thing, and it was done really well. It was on NBC Sports and I think the NFL.com.
Right.
The quality was HD. I mean, HD as far as online HD. You could
How
pick
could
different.
they possibly? I mean, you know, the whoever. I must have been on Fox or whatever. Whoever put the Super Bowl on. I mean, that's got to be one of the most expensive things that they buy.
Yeah, and they gave it away for free.
And then the NFL was giving it away for free. That's interesting.
Well, the NFL gave it away for free with NBC all over the place. You know, because it was partnered with NBC, so they gave it away with.
So did they have the same ads that were on NBC?
No, not. You know what's funny? They had their own online ads. Like, they had the same repetitive online ads with the guy from The Office. Dwight from The Office was in it. And they had some of the ads, but if you wanted to watch the ads, you could click on, they were like a bunch of video stuff on the bottom. So you could either hide it or do that. So whenever they went to break, you could watch a commercial if you wanted. It was done. It was done in a good way. I mean, I didn't hate it. It was, of course, they could have cleaned it up a little bit, but they did a good job. The other thing was that they allowed you to pick different camera angles.
Oh, see, this is one of many things that I think is going to be the future of sports. You know,
yeah.
One of my big pet peeves about sporting events, and this is true of football, especially basketball, is horrible for this baseball. Maybe the worst, simply because there's so much downtime. But the announcers talk and they talk, and they say the same things over and over again, and it's kind of annoying. And I actually think that one of the directions that major sports can go in is to not just to allow for different angles, video angles, but also different audio streams. That it would be very interesting in certain markets. So you could picture a market like New York, right? A very big market, very big sports market, or Boston or LA or whatever, where obviously you have local guys, and some people like the local guys. Sometimes you'll have this opportunity maybe to hear the announcers from the other place, but you'll also have local guys, which will be the equivalent of people that write blogs today or podcasters, where they're doing what amounts to an amateur telecast over a live sporting event. And some of those people will be so good that they'll become very popular. And the sort of thing that you're doing right here, or we're doing together with the podcast, is the type of thing that people will be able to do over live sporting events. When that happens, and I really do feel that it will, that there's going to be this new generation of sportscasters who we can finally get rid of these talking suits, or these ex-football players who never have anything interesting to say other than back when I was a player. I'm really looking forward to that. Here's an example of an early form of this, by the way. When I was a kid growing up in the Boston area, watching the Boston Celtics, We hated the announcers on TV, especially when it was a national telecast. The thing would go into CBS and they'd have like Brett Unger or whatever the guy said. Terrible announcers. So what we would do is we would put on the local radio station. We had this awesome guy that did the Celtics telecast. And by awesome, I mean, obviously, incredibly pro Celtics and anti everyone else. And it was, even though the audio was a little off, because, the games have sort of a slightly different delay on them, we would listen to him over the TV, right? And I bet hundreds of people listening to this have probably done something very similar. So why not just allow that, but have there be multiple sources? So the future of this stuff, I think, is you'll be able to control the angles. There'll be some
it'll be
simple
great
programming involved where you say, look, when it's a home run, I want to be able to see the different angle. There'll be little choices you can make and things. And then you'll be able to choose who you listen to.
See, now I'm trying to find how many people watched it online, right? And
I didn't even know it was online. I would have just.
They didn't do a good job of telling you. So the headline says Super Bowl breaks TV records but fizzles online. But they're not really telling you how many people watched. They're saying, well, about 300 people watched when they aired Sunday Night Football online. So even if it's 1% of that, it's still a failure.
This is not fair because most people don't have a way to get the the web on their TV in a way that looks good and would make sense. But the other problem is, this isn't just it's not a game. It's the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is about the ads as well as the game. So for 50% of the people who don't care about the game, they're there because they're going to be entertained anyway with the ads.
I think
no one wants a question. It's like I'm watching the Super Bowl, not I'm watching a web approximation of the Super Bowl and hoping for the best.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I think ESPN did a much better job with the World Cup last year than what NBC did with the Super Bowl.
As an American, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. The World Cup is this thing where they call it football outside of the country. It's called soccer here.
Yeah, those people annoy me.
Yeah, they kick a ball for about 80 minutes, 90 minutes, and then the score is 1-0.
Yep,
that's it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I'm a big soccer fan, so I watched it.
Okay.
Because I have immigrant parents, and it's just what happens.
Okay. Yeah.
You're kind of bred into it. So I watched the World Cup, and I think ESPN did a phenomenal job. And I was watching on ESPN, whatever their service is, their online service, and they did a great job. I would love to see what NBC does with the Olympics now, because I would love to pick, what's happening and different angles and different events, and go online and do it that way.
Right, and that would be a good choice of venue for that because it's a bunch of sports that nobody really knows anything about by and large. It's a bunch of athletes that nobody knows anything about by and large, right? Being telecasted, accompanied by people who don't really know much about what's going on. And so that would be an interesting experiment for that kind of stuff. They tend to be beautifully filmed in HD and all that stuff. Sometimes they're on a different part of the planet, so you're watching them on a tape delay anyway. Yeah, that would be the ideal time to start that.
But I think this is interesting because this opens up a different thing. What other events are going to start broadcasting? What shows might be broadcasting? If NBC's open-minded, they might say, well, you know what we'll do? We'll air The Office live online, and we'll sell ads specifically for online for The Office.
Right.
So now they're getting double ads. They're able to create different revenue online.
The future there, too, could be more of the amateur thing, too. I mean, I think there's a lot here. I mean, Netflix is going to start having original programming, right?
Sure.
I know that sometime soon they're going to broadcast, or actually it might have even started already. It's actually a Norwegian show, but they're broadcasting it exclusively in the United States over Netflix. I think it's called Lilyhammer.
Lilyhammer, yeah, it's about the mob. It's the guy from The Sopranos, the second guy.
Yeah.
The consigliere.
Right. So that's not the same as your own show, but it you can see where it's heading in that direction, where Netflix is not NBC and is not Universal, but they're big enough they have enough money to certainly finance this kind of thing.
I personally think that things are going to change when they start offering live content. The on-demand I understand, but there's something about live that draws people. I'm more inclined to.
No, you're right. You're right. And so look, we're here. We're talking about technical stuff, computers and whatnot. It's kind of a niche audience in many ways, or a niche topic, I should say. But sports are a big deal. Sports being the ultimate live event, right? Like I said, I think there is an opportunity for people who are like us but know a lot about sports and not technology or whatever, to make a difference. Or imagine like an award show, like I don't watch these shows, but like the Emmys or the Grammys,
the Tonys, Paul.
Okay, whatever.
Okay,
whatever they are.
Yeah.
These shows, I believe, are kind of big events for people who are into celebrities and whatever these things are, TV and movie and music, I guess. You could have people covering that stuff live, where you have what is essentially like a live feed that these guys could choose different angles from, and you probably pay some nominal fee to get it. And then they do their talking over the stuff. It would be the same thing. But I do think that sports is the ultimate one. The baseball season is incredibly long. There are many, many teams. There's lots of time. Every game is like 3.5 hours long. There's a lot of time there. There are probably some awesome guys who live in Kansas City or Philadelphia or somewhere in Florida or whatever who could talk about baseball every single day for the summer and be awesome at it.
Yeah, instead of some national guy.
They'll develop an audience, and they'll be better than the goons at whatever station broadcasts.
Yeah.
Stuff.
No, I think you're right. I think that's an interesting idea. The problem is, what they've done? I think with MLB.com, you could, if you sign up for the package, you could get whatever. And it's been successful for them. They're not looking at it as the other way, where if we open it up for everybody, we could charge more for ad revenue, therefore creating...
No, but this is an extension of that. So MLB TV is really neat because if I'm a Boston Celtics fan and for some reason I get a job and I move the family to Phoenix or something, I may still want to watch the Red Sox. So MLB TV is my option. I can do this. They have different packages. I can do them on devices and so forth. They allow you to choose between the home and away announcers. I'm always going to want the Red Sox announcers, so that's what I would choose. But you could see how they would extend that with these kind of amateur hour guys, their version of podcasters, where it just so happens there are these two great guys in the Boston area and they do their own version of this telecast. And when I choose that, maybe those guys get a couple of bucks from MLB or something. And
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Where do you think this is going to, I know that sports, I think every major sporting event now will probably go online, in my opinion, next year or two. But where does this leave sitcoms and comedies and just regular TV shows that the networks have? I listen, I don't expect every show to be online, but I think it's an interesting idea to air some of your shows, select shows, just do live. And I'm not talking about on Hulu. I'm talking about on NBC Live. This is their...
I don't know if that works for fictional set pieces, sitcoms or dramas or whatever. I don't... That to me is not necessarily... doesn't have to be live and maybe would be diminished by being live. I think there are other opportunities there for the interactive stuff. And you've seen experimental things around that. Connect has stuff like that where you can get into a virtual room and watch shows together and talk about it. My wife and I are always pausing TV shows and discussing, so if we watch a show like House Hunters International, pause. Can't believe these guys are going for this house, blah, blah, whatever. Maybe those things become community experiences where you do it with, virtually with other people and have these discussions or something. I don't think everything has to be that way. The other thing I would say is that, for as cheap and easy as it is to do the reality TV type stuff, or to have local podcasters call a Red Sox game instead of the professional guys, there will always be the need for professionally produced comedies, dramas, action, adventure, all these kind of things, whatever you want to call them, TV shows, sitcoms, movies, whatever, that these forms of entertainment still will occur. I mean, I don't often watch a TV show and think, wow, I wish this was a play, although there's obviously an audience for that too. But I mean, I think there's going to be everything. I think it's the point, that you can't. No,
they're gonna go we keep going back to Files, but Files technically is kind of doing that, right? They're giving away, if you're a Files customer, they're giving away your content on the Xbox. You can watch it. The next step is probably going to be the iPad. Then it's going to be online.
Yeah,
you can watch it online. What?
Well, it should be pervasive. That you're a Files customer, and if you want to, and you're you're on your phone on the bus, you could do it there. If you're
Yeah,
on a
why
plane.
not? I mean, I don't understand it. Why not offer it and say, you know what? If you don't have to have a TV cable box in your room, you have the special whatever package, and you watch everything on the computer. There you go.
It's kind of a licensing nightmare right now. I think that's why not. But I think this is absolutely where it's
I was watching an interview, and they were saying this is from a couple of years ago, and I got to find it again. It was a Time Warner guy. No, I'm sorry, Comcast. And they were saying why don't you offer your content online? They said, well, because if it's on the computer, you could pirate it. You could do whatever. You could take it and decode it. He used the word decode and put it out for everybody.
You could, but what if it? But what are we talking about here? So, for example,
like if let's say I'm watching, I have Comcast, and Comcast is airing their stuff online, and I'm watching.
I understand. I'm just saying, most of the content that Comcast is showing is not something that you would want to watch twice. So the instance of piracy is really just about seeing it, right? Not about keeping it and rebroadcasting it or whatever. I mean,
but they're saying that some people might pirate it. Some people might rip it and then put it on BitTorrent, and now everybody can watch Veronica Mars.
Okay, but that happens now anyway. If these shows were only available on DVD, someone would rip it and put it online.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I mean,
it made no sense. No, it made no sense. But I mean, that's how they're doing it.
There's a big international thing to this too. I mean, so if I'm a Netflix customer, I go to Europe and I want to stream Netflix, I can't because that only works in the United States, even though I'm the customer and I should be able to do that. Those are things that need to be overcome. If you were to open up TV shows and movies in the United States to the web, people from France or the UK or Brazil or wherever would be able to watch those things as well. I happen to really be into like English TV shows. There are probably a bunch of them that I don't know about and don't get to see for whatever reason because they don't all make it here. At least, certainly not in a timely fashion.
Are you an Absolutely Fabulous fan or no?
No, I hate Absolutely Fabulous.
That's the only one I know.
Here's the only joke on Absolutely Fabulous. I'm drunk. All right, so the thing is, no, but they're great UK shows. Really good, really good shows. It would be awesome for me to be able to watch that to me to be able to watch some of those shows in real time. And enjoy them over the web, even if I had to pay for them. I would really consider doing that if there was kind of a seamless way to do it through my TV set. The fact that I don't live in London prevents me from doing, from watching some shows that I would watch. I would pay to do that. I don't understand.
I mean, you look at, what they do, and BBC America is totally stripped down. One of my favorite shows is Top Gear. And they'll take segments out because they think it's too British and that Americans won't get it.
Right. Whereas meanwhile, that's what I want to see.
And that's what I want to see. That's the best segment. Like they take out the best parts because it's we're Americans and we don't understand.
Or even if you like a show like Downton Abbey, which is like the latest sensation, right? The version of that show in the United States is actually cut down a little bit because it needs to fit within our cute little 60-minute time frame that everything has to be. That show is actually sometimes 67 minutes long or 68 minutes long or whatever. And so one of the big things you can try to find is like the original UK version. I think if you get the version on iTunes right now, that's what that is. That stuff is it's dumb. We're not, the people who are seeking this stuff out are sophisticated enough to want the real thing. That's the point, and why can't someone from France watch the Super Bowl if that's what they want to do? Over the web.
Oh, because I'll tell you why. Because it's all about ad revenue. Because the ads that they're going to air are U.S.-based ads, and they're not going to really appeal to you. I'll tell you one thing. But they would
still enjoy it. I mean, I think it's the point. In other words, no one from France cares about football. Now, watching the Super Bowl for the ads is maybe the only reason they would want to watch the Super Bowl.
I'll give you a perfect example of how the ad revenue stuff is so screwed up. Satellite radio does not air any local ads. They could give you local weather. I mean, they know where you are technically, and they could transmit certain shows, but I think they are not allowed to take local ads.
But is that dumber than certain cable TV channels show national or regional ads that don't apply to where I live?
No.
So I see ads for things like Sonic, which doesn't exist near me.
Yeah, the total opposite works, though. National is allowed. Local is not allowed. Like when Howard left terrestrial radio, he had a big problem getting new ads because a lot of the ads were local ads, and they were making a ton of money with the local ads, even though he's predominantly in New York, but he was not allowed to take them to satellite. So what happened with satellite radio, all these morning guys that are local guys that are on satellite radio, They're not bringing in revenue because it's all these stupid national ads, and it's all a scam. It's always like for like clean my PC, you know? Those are the only ads on satellite radio because those are the only people buying ads on a national level. You're not going to get a Coca-Cola advertising on, you know, the Bob and so-and-so show in the mornings.
Right.
So it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
It is. It is.
But that's the same exact thing that applies to why we don't get certain shows, why they don't air it online for certain shows. It's weird.
No, but see, but I would pay for it.
I would too. No, I pay for it too.
I think others would too. It can't be that expensive. I don't understand. I just don't get it.
It all comes down to piracy. I've come to realize that everything comes down to piracy.
I guess, except that it's also misguided. So, for example, I could go to, and I did. I went to Amazon.co.uk in January. I bought the second season of Sherlock, which is a BBC TV series, which is maybe the single best TV show I've ever watched in my life. Not available here yet. It's going to air on PBS in March, I think. I got it. So I've seen it. I've watched it, even though I'm not supposed to see it. But when I go to Amazon.co.uk and I go to the MP3 store, I can't buy music from there, even though it's music I can't buy here in the U.S. They won't let me do that.
It's such BS.
I could buy the CD.
Yeah, and then they wonder why some people end up going and, you know, buying it online.
What is the seriously? I mean, that's ludicrous. But I just did that. So.
By the way, local and national, I won't turn your ads away here. We'll talk about. We'll talk about. You know what? I'll do an ad for the Bayside Milk Farm and Tony's Auto Repair Collision on Hollis Court in Bayside, Queens. I'll talk about them, and I'll talk to a national audience. Nice. I did want to talk about the second topic that I had. Actually, it was second on the list, but I wrote the end of piracy, and I don't necessarily actually. You'll never end piracy, but is this the beginning of the end for mainstream types of piracy like BitTorrent? Are we going back? Are we going to go under? I mean, nobody's attacking IRC for piracy.
It's funny. So is BitTorrent considered mainstream?
Yeah, everybody does BitTorrent now. Everybody. I mean, my generation. I know everybody does BitTorrent. Kieran, do you do BitTorrenting? Yeah. See, just asking people in the office.
Right.
Everybody. I mean, this is how everybody gets everything. But is this the end of this? Is it the end of BitTorrent? The mainstream way of doing piracy? I don't think Mega Upload was a big deal. Like, people are attacking Mega Upload. I'm like, I don't know anybody that went to Mega Upload or any of these sites to
Those are the sites you immediately navigated away from, right? If you ever ended up on a site like that, the normal reaction is, oh, no, I don't want this.
Yeah,
no.
I would say,
your
holy
download
crap.
will begin in 8, 7. No. Don't trust that.
No, I think that was just a way that people did it. But I think in the grand scale of things, you know, like BT Junkie shut down this week.
Here's what I don't understand. The site being there to me is not the issue. I'm confused how people with mainstream ISPs can even get to these sites. Like, why isn't the federal government requiring Verizon and Comcast and whoever else to prevent users from getting to these sites? You know, if you want to end like mainstream piracy, make it hard at the source. You know?
I don't know. You know, it's a very interesting thing because I don't think anybody uses BT Junkie legitimately.
I've never even heard of BT Junkie.
It's the big one. Do you remember a couple of years ago? What was it? I think it was called Torrent Nova or Mini Nova or Supernova, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Years ago. They shut those down, and then BT Junkie became the big one.
Obviously, I've heard of the Pirate Bay.
The Pirate Bay, yeah. But I've never used the Pirate Bay.
The piratebay.com.
Are they still doing it? I think they are. No,
yeah, they're there. They're there. So let's pirate some stuff.
Okay. Let's see.
Let's see what's here.
Let me see. The Pirate Bay No, you can't. Well, it takes you to .se for the Pirate Bay.
It does. Yep.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting. So and it's pop-up ads. I love the websites where you click the page and it pops up under.
Look, you get an audiobook there. It's interesting.
I can get it.
Yeah, you can. You can get an audiobook at the Pirate Bay. But regardless of what it is, you know, I don't think they'll ever be able to shut it down.
Yeah.
Piracy in general. But is this the end? Is this a slow end of mainstream piracy as far as BitTorrenting goes until something else comes out? Is this what we're going to start seeing?
No, this is the type of thing that's just always going to happen. You know, it's the technologies will change, but This site's crazy. So I haven't looked at it. It's interesting. You could get a FLAC version of a recently released album. Why would somebody want that?
I just had to tell someone how to undo their. They had a FLAC version, and they wanted to know how to convert it to MP3. And I'm like, you definitely downloaded that somewhere, didn't you? And they go, yeah.
Yeah, FLAC. Yeah. I want a music file that won't play on any device that I own. Do you have anything like that?
Well, I'm just searching here, and the first thing that pops up for me is that under most recent, my wife's hot friend. I wonder what that is.
I'm pretty sure that's not my wife's friend.
It's funny, people are still using this, but who are they targeting with this? It's not you or I, really.
College students, right? I mean, who buys these things, or who doesn't buy these things, I guess. I mean, the people who have no money, college students, right? And that's fine. I get it. I was young once. I understand.
But
I can't imagine what I would have been like, if I was 18 now.
But you could easily end a lot of the piracy that the Motion Picture Association, not Motion Picture Association, but the TV stations are. My employee Suncast is writing underpaid employees to me. That's what he wrote to me. Who downloads this stuff? Underpaid GFQ employees, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. But
all right.
You could easily end this or kill a lot of it is by offering your content with the ads online for free. You could easily add The Office, and that's a lot of the downloads. We think they're really intelligent, college kids that are finding obscure stuff. Yeah, a lot of the stuff is obscure, but a lot of the people also going and downloading, last week's House.
Yeah.
So why not just offer it for free and put ads on it, and you end it there? If I had an option to go to Fox.com and watch The Office or watch House, or if I was going to download it illegally, guess what? I would go to Fox.com and download House.
Well, actually, could you go to? Well, you can't download it, right? So
you can't download it, but you could stream it. But the problem is, it's select things. It's not everything that they have.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just the most recent.
And it's always the most recent. Like the catalog is not there. Why not? The revenue that you can make on old stuff. Like here, they have Family Guy, for example, Fox.com. Yep. Watch online. Let's see. Click on Family Guy.
I'm literally doing the same thing.
They have 5 full episodes.
Yeah.
5.
No, they must have, so they probably have ads.
Yeah, and they're probably
which is fine. It's fine. I'm not,
Yeah, no, they have ads, which is okay, which I'll sit through and I'll watch. But why not offer the back catalog, put the ads on that too, and you're going to get more ads because more people are going to see it. It's a simple thing, and I think they're so terrified of this. I don't know what they consider the new generation of people that watch content online. I think they probably think that everybody's recording everything and distributing it illegally, but I don't get it. I'm missing something.
The problem is the people who are doing that are not going to be paying for this regardless. You get a bunch of, I'm imagining here, but a bunch of students in a dorm room or something. I mean, I think between them, they could download all the shows that everybody wants, and no one has to be paying for cable TV or whatever.
I don't know. It's a very strange thing. Like some of the shows on like the History Channel, right?
Yeah. I'll
never be able to see that again if I don't watch it live. There's nowhere to get it.
I've actually experienced the same thing. In fact, it's funny, over Christmas, I don't remember what it was, but I went to the History Channel's website to see if this stuff was available anywhere. I tried to find it on Netflix, on Amazon, and it's amazing to me how much stuff is on this channel that doesn't exist to purchase or stream or whatever. I don't understand how this channel works.
Well, they do it with the history, science, Discovery, like all of those. They do it with all of them, and you can't ever watch it. Like it's gone.
Yep.
And you got to watch it online. I don't
Much
know.
Like our live feed is also gone.
Oh, there we go. When I said gone, I meant gone.
Yep.
But you can find out this day in history. I mean, they have clips and stuff. The Beatles arrived in New York today in history, 1964.
Nice.
Beatlemania began. They landed at Kennedy.
Yep.
Did I tell you my dream last night before we wrap it up?
Was it about the Beatles?
I was at LaGuardia Airport. TWA was still in business. And they had it was like older airplanes. And I was explaining to people, I was actually riding on an ostrich. That's why I had the ostrich reference. I had no car. I was riding on an ostrich. Maybe this is why I got into a car accident.
I was going to say,
obviously,
this sounds like you.
Yeah, it had some hell of a time last night.
Yeah.
I was riding on an ostrich, and again, the feed is black. Why is camera 1 not working? My camera's not working. Yep. And I was explaining to someone how the planes keep falling in the water. Because you remember that in the early 90s at LaGuardia? Like 2 or 3 like TWA planes just like went off the runway and went into the marsh.
No, but
that's what happened. I was explaining to someone this. That was my dream. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it felt like telling you. Now it explains why I got into a car accident this morning.
Someone who analyzes dreams will inform you that you have a terrible, terrible problem.
I hope I do. I would love to know what the hell that dream means. Sitting on an ostrich, going to LaGuardia and telling people fell in the marsh. I don't know.
My sister got attacked by an ostrich when we went to a zoo one time.
They're awful creatures.
They're actually they're like giant swans.
Them and turkeys. I think turkeys are hideous monsters.
Yeah, they are. Yep, they're mean creatures.
It's what hell is made out of, Paul. Just turkeys.
It's made out of turkey. Yep. They're as ugly as they are mean.
The devil's pet, the turkey. That's what I call it. All right. Let's start wrapping it up. How about that? Go to our website, guysfromqueens.com or gfqnetwork.com. You can watch us live every Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. East at gfqlive.tv. Check out Paul's website, winsupersite.com. A lot of the Windows 8 stuff was from winsupersite.com. Also, Paul does his podcast, long-running podcast, Windows Weekly on the Twit Network with Mary Jo Foley every Thursday at 2 p.m. East. I don't know what else. Anything else, Paul?
That's
anything else
going
on? That's mostly what you do. You could follow Paul on Twitter too, because he has a lot of entertaining tweets. I actually just retweet Paul, or sometimes I don't even retweet him. I just copy and paste it and just say that I did it.
Right.
That's pretty much what I do.
I'm used to plagiarism.
Yeah, I just steal his work all the time. You could also follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. Remember, support our sponsors, hover.com, domain names made simple. If you go to gfq.hover.com, you can get 10% off. Buy a domain name. You could buy ostrich. Andrew rides an ostrich. I don't know. You could buy that the turkeys are the devil's creature. I mean, that also is a domain you can buy.
Probably still available.
Probably still available at Hover or promo code GFQ. Guys, thank you so much. Remember, subscribe to us, follow us. We're on iTunes. We're on the Zune. We're everywhere you can imagine. And we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.